They said she died 10 years ago, but last night her shadow knocked on my door. If you want to hear this story till the end, or enjoy more stories like this, hit subscribe and share your ideas in the comments. The rain had stopped, but the air still smelled like goodbye. Emma stood outside his old house, the one with the white porch and the swing that never stopped moving in the wind. She hadn't seen it in 3 years, not since the night she left without saying a word. Her fingers trembled as she gripped the letter she wrote 100 times but never sent. She came back to say sorry, to explain, to tell him she never meant to break him. But the door opened before she could knock. Noah stood there, his eyes wider than she remembered, his hair shorter, his shoulders heavier. He looked at her like a memory he never wanted back. Emma whispered his name, but her voice cracked like glass. He didn't say anything, just stepped aside like he was torn between the past and the life behind him. She walked in slowly. The house felt different. New photos on the wall, new furniture, but the same smell of cedar and old coffee. Then she saw it, on the counter next to a mug with lipstick on it, a wedding ring. Not his hand, not yet, but close enough to break her breath. Her heart fell quiet, the kind of quiet that screams louder than thunder. She tried to speak, but all she could do was stare. He followed her eyes and knew exactly what she saw. "You came back too late, didn't you?" He said it soft, like he didn't want to hurt her, but every word cut deep. Emma wanted to say she didn't come to stay. She came to ask forgiveness. But when she looked at him, she knew it wouldn't matter anymore. She took a step back, her shoes still wet from the rain, leaving marks on his clean floor. Her eyes found a photo on the shelf. Him and another woman, smiling under the same oak tree where he once kissed her for the first time. Emma bit her lip, holding back everything she wanted to scream. "When did you stop waiting for me?" she whispered. He looked down. "The day I realized you weren't coming back." Her chest tightened. She wanted to tell him she never stopped thinking of him, that every night she replayed his voice in her head. But the sound of laughter came from upstairs, a woman's voice, calling his name, soft, gentle, warm, and everything froze inside her. Noah looked toward the stairs, then back to Emma, torn between the life he built and the one that never really ended. Emma blinked slow, tears forming. "I just needed you to know I'm sorry." He nodded once, then silence again, thick enough to choke on. The woman's footsteps started down the stairs, light, quick, like someone happy to see him. Emma stepped toward the door, but her fingers brushed against the wedding ring on the counter. She stopped staring at it, the gold still shining through the shadows. Her reflection in it was small, broken. The footsteps got closer. The air grew heavier. And for a moment, Noah looked like he wanted to say something but couldn't find the words. Emma turned slowly, her hand still trembling around that folded letter she never gave him. And then she heard it. A voice from behind her. "Honey, who's at the door?" Emma froze, her breath caught somewhere between her heart and the door. She didn't turn around. Not yet, not when her whole body felt like it was standing on glass. The voice was soft, sweet, curious, like sunlight on a Sunday morning. She wanted to disappear before it reached her, but her feet wouldn't move. Noah stepped forward, his hand brushing against her sleeve for just a second. She felt it, the warmth, the ache, the everything she came back for. He pulled his hand away too fast, like touching her burned. The woman came down the stairs, her hair still damp from the shower, her smile wide and real. Emma could see the wedding band on her finger before she even reached the bottom step. It glowed against the light, and something inside Emma cracked, silent, invisible, but real. Noah tried to speak, his voice caught halfway between guilt and comfort. "This is Emma." The woman blinked, her eyes bright with the kind of kindness that hurts. "Oh, you're Emma," she said softly, like she had heard the name before. Emma wanted to vanish. She wanted to be anywhere else but there, in that living room full of ghosts. The woman stepped closer, reaching out her hand, polite, innocent. Emma hesitated before shaking it, her hand cold, shaking like it belonged to someone else. The woman smiled again. "Noah's told me so much about you." And in that one sentence, Emma felt the world spin slow, heavy, cruel. She looked at Noah, his eyes distant, lost somewhere between what was and what is. She knew he told stories, but not the whole ones, never the endings, never the parts that still bled. The woman turned to him, her smile easy. "Baby, can you grab me the wine from the kitchen?" Emma flinched at the word baby. He nodded and walked away, leaving her standing there between the past and the life she ruined. Emma's eyes wandered again across the room. A small blanket on the couch, tiny sneakers by the door. Her heart stumbled. "There was a child," she whispered, almost without breath. The woman nodded, proud. "Yeah, she's upstairs taking her nap. She's 3 now." Emma swallowed her tears like poison. Her mind went back to the night she left, the way he begged her to stay, the way she said she couldn't. And now here it was, the cost of every choice she made. The woman smiled, still talking, but Emma couldn't hear her anymore. Everything sounded far away, muffled like she was underwater. She saw the pictures on the wall, one by one. The baby's first steps, the Christmas tree, the beach trip. And there in the corner, one frame half hidden behind another, a photo of Noah and Emma from years ago. Not taken down, just forgotten. Her chest tightened, her pulse heavy. Noah walked back into the room, the wine bottle in his hand. His eyes met hers for a second too long. He could see it still there, the thing neither of them ever buried. The woman took the bottle, thanked him, kissed his cheek. Emma looked away, pretending not to see it, pretending not to break. Noah set the glass down, his hand shaking just slightly. Emma stepped back toward the door, whispering so low it almost wasn't sound. "I should go." Noah didn't stop her. The woman smiled polite again. "It was nice to finally meet you, Emma." Emma forced a nod, her voice gone. She opened the door, the cold air rushing in. The wind carried the smell of rain and pine and old memories that never died. She stepped outside, the world quiet except for her heartbeat. But just as she reached the steps, she heard a tiny voice from upstairs calling out, "Daddy!" Emma stopped. Her body froze like the world had turned to stone. The small voice echoed down the hall, soft, innocent, full of life she never knew. Noah turned toward the stairs, his face gentle, his eyes soft in a way Emma remembered too well. He said, "Comin', sweetheart?" his voice warm and calm. Emma's chest ached, her hand gripping the edge of the porch rail to keep from falling. A tiny girl appeared at the top of the stairs, hair messy, eyes sleepy, holding a stuffed bear tight in her arms. She looked just like him. The same brown eyes, the same half-smile. Emma's breath left her chest in one broken wave. The woman picked the child up, kissed her forehead, whispered something that made her giggle. Emma felt the sound hit her heart like a memory she never earned. Noah looked at them both, standing there in the golden afternoon light. He looked like he belonged, and Emma knew right then she was only a ghost in his story now. She turned away slowly, her fingers still clutching that old folded letter, the one with all the words she never said, the ink smudged from the rain and the shaking. She wanted to drop it, to let the wind take it, but her hand wouldn't open. The sound of the door closing behind her was soft, but final. She walked down the steps, each one heavier than the last. The yard still smelled like lilacs in spring. The swing moved a little in the wind, creaking the same way it did the night they first kissed. She stopped for a second, watching it sway back and forth like it still remembered. Then she heard the screen door open again, footsteps coming closer. Emma didn't turn. She just stood there, staring at the swing. Noah's voice came low, quiet, almost breaking. "You really came back, didn't you?" She nodded, not trusting her voice. He took a slow breath, the sound of it shaken in the silence. "Why now, Emma?" She closed her eyes, the answer stuck behind everything she carried. "Because I never stopped loving you," she wanted to say, but the words died before they reached her lips. The wind picked up, moving her hair across her face. She whispered, barely a sound, "I needed to tell you I was sorry." His voice came back, soft, tired. "I forgave you a long time ago." Her heart broke again in the same place it did years ago, only deeper. She turned to look at him, his eyes still the same, but older, full of everything they never fixed. Behind him, she saw the woman standing in the doorway, the child in her arms, watching. Emma felt the weight of the moment pressing against her chest. She wanted to walk away, but her feet stayed planted in the mud. The clouds rolled over the sun, shadows falling across the porch. Noah stepped closer, his eyes glassy. "You should come by sometime. She'd like to meet you." Emma blinked, confused. "Who?" He looked toward the little girl, smiling. Faint, but true. "My daughter." Emma's throat tightened, her vision blurring. The wind caught the letter in her hand, pulling it free, spinning it across the yard. It fluttered like a lost bird, landing near the swing. Noah watched it fall, his face unreadable. Emma took one last look at him, the woman, the child, the house she once called home. Her lips parted just enough to whisper something he couldn't hear. And then she turned toward the road, the sound of the swing still creaking behind her, like a heartbeat that refused to stop. The road was wet, the sky heavy with clouds that refused to break. Emma walked slow, her shoes sinking into the soft earth with every step. The letter lay behind her, soaked and torn, but she didn't look back. The sound of the swing still followed her faint through the wind like an echo she couldn't escape. Each step felt like pulling away from a life she once lived, each breath like leaving a piece of herself behind. The town looked the same. The diner at the corner still had the neon sign that buzzed every night. The old bookstore still had the bell above the door that rang too loud. She stopped for a second outside the window, her reflection staring back empty and tired. Inside, a couple laughed over coffee the same way she and Noah once did. She looked away, unable to hold the memory. She walked to the park, the one near the river where they used to sit and plan dreams that never came true. The benches were wet, but she sat anyway, letting the cold soak through her jeans. The river moved slow, steady, like time that didn't care about anyone. She closed her eyes, and for a moment she could almost hear him again. His laugh, his promises, his voice saying forever. But forever had turned into a house with another woman and a child who called him Daddy. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. She pulled it out, hesitated. It was a message from an unknown number. She opened it. The words simple, small. "Thank you for coming today. He needed that." Emma stared at the screen, her hands trembling. She knew it was from the woman. She didn't reply. She just let the phone fall beside her on the bench. The clouds finally opened, soft rain falling over the park, washing the dust off everything. Emma tilted her head back, letting it hit her face. It felt clean, but heavy, like it was trying to erase her. She whispered to herself, barely breathing the words, "I'm still here." The wind carried them away, over the river. Then a sound came behind her, footsteps, slow, careful. She didn't turn. She thought it was the rain or her mind playing tricks. But then she heard his voice again, quiet, rough, full of things left unsaid. "Emma." Her heart jumped, her hands tightening in her lap. She didn't move. She just listened. He came closer,
The rain dripping from his jacket, the sound of it mixing with her heartbeat. He stood behind her, not speaking, not sitting, just standing there in the storm. And after a long silence, he said the words that made her whole body freeze. "I never stopped waiting for you."
The words hung in the air, heavy like thunder that never fell. Emma didn't breathe. She just stared at the river, her reflection breaking in the ripples. The rain slid down her face, mixing with tears she didn't know were there. She wanted to turn around, to see his face, to know if he meant it. But she was afraid. Afraid it would be true. Afraid it wouldn't. His footsteps came closer, the gravel crunching soft beneath his boots. She felt the warmth of him behind her, even through the cold. He sat beside her, not touching, not speaking, just breathing the same rain-soaked air. Minutes passed, maybe more. The silence was thick, but it said everything. She finally turned, slowly, her eyes finding his. He looked different, softer and harder all at once. His eyes were tired, but real, and when he looked at her, she saw the same ache she carried. "Why did you come?" she whispered. He stared at the river before answering. "Because I couldn't let you leave like that again." She wanted to speak, but the words tangled in her throat. "You have a family now," she said, her voice breaking. He nodded, the rain dripping from his hair. "I know, but that doesn't stop what I feel." Emma shook her head, the tears falling harder. "Don't say that. Please, don't make it harder." He smiled, faint, sad, like a man who already knew the ending. "It's already hard, Emma. It always was." She looked down at her hands, shaking in her lap. The letter she lost, the home she couldn't keep, the love she never stopped holding. Everything came back, all at once. He leaned back against the bench, his eyes on the gray sky. "You think we ever really stop loving someone?" he asked. Emma didn't answer. She couldn't. The rain answered for her, soft, endless. He reached into his pocket, pulled something small and shiny, the wedding ring. The same one she saw on the counter. He turned it in his fingers, the gold glinting under the clouds. "I took it off when you left," he said quietly. "Then I put it back on when I tried to move on." He paused, his voice shaking. "But I never stopped feeling like it belonged to a ghost." Emma stared at it, her heart racing faster than the rain. She whispered, barely a sound, "Why are you telling me this?" He looked at her, his eyes raw. "Because I don't know how to let go, even when I should." She felt the world tilt around her, the river, the trees, the rain, all blurring. Her body trembled, not from the cold, but from everything she never said. He leaned forward, his elbows on his knees, his head down. "I thought time would fix it, but every time I hear your name, it starts all over again." Emma closed her eyes, the sound of his voice sinking into her bones. "You can't do this," she whispered. "You have a life now, a daughter." He nodded, his breath shaking. "I know, and I love them. I really do. But there's still a part of me that waits for you every night when the house gets quiet." The silence between them stretched long and heavy. The rain slowed a little, the air thick with things neither could take back. Emma turned toward him, finally, her voice soft, almost gone. "Then what are we supposed to do now?" He looked at her, his hand still holding the ring. The answer sat in his eyes before he even spoke. "We let the rain decide." The rain slowed to a whisper, falling gentle over the river and the empty streets. Emma sat still, her heart quiet for the first time in years. Noah looked out at the water, his hand open, the ring resting in his palm, shining like a memory. The sky began to clear, faint light breaking through the clouds, turning everything soft and gold. Emma stood slowly, her clothes heavy, her hair stuck to her face. She looked down at him, her eyes calm, not broken anymore, just tired and real. "You should go home," she said, her voice barely a breath. He nodded, but didn't move,
his fingers closing around the ring one last time before he slipped it back on. She smiled faintly, a smile that carried both goodbye and peace. "Tell her you love her. Tell your daughter she's lucky," she whispered. He looked up at her, his eyes glassy, but steady. He nodded again, and that was enough. She turned toward the road, the puddles glimmering under the fading rain. Her reflection followed her for a while, then disappeared with each step. The wind carried the smell of wet grass and the sound of the river moving on. Behind her, Noah stayed sitting for a long time, his head bowed, his hand over his heart. Emma reached the corner of the park, the streetlights flickering on one by one. She looked back just once, saw him still there, small against the wide gray sky. And in that moment, she finally forgave herself. The rain stopped completely, the world quiet and still. She took a deep breath, the kind that feels like starting over, and walked into the light.